The race for Ohio governor is growing, with former Republican presidential primary candidate Vivek Ramaswamy announcing his candidacy on Tuesday. The 39-year-old biotech entrepreneur and Ohio native has a busy campaign schedule to kick off the race. 21 News is your place for politics, and we're spending 5 minutes at 5 right here with the candidates in the 2026 race for governor. Vivek Ramaswamy joins me here now. Thank you for taking the time.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
So a lot on your campaign schedule, but also on your platform. You have promised to end the state income tax and property taxes, something voters and candidates have shared with me often here that they're concerned about in terms of the property taxes. Ohio has a progressive tax system, meaning the more you make, the more you pay. So if those taxes are eliminated, the wealthiest would get the biggest break. So how would you offset the loss of funding for programs and infrastructure?
So the way I look at this is that I want to lift up all Ohioans. My whole mission in this is not what we want to cut. It's what American dream we actually want to create. And economic growth is how we're going to get there. I mean, think about Youngstown, the steel capital of the world. Akron, not far away, the rubber capital of the world in the past century. I want to lead Ohio back to greatness. And the fact of the matter is, we have to contend with this. There are at least 8 other states with a zero income tax that our own kids are in many cases going up and moving to from sons and daughters of Ohio. That's not what I want. I want this to be the state where every kid grows up and stays here to pursue their American dream here, to lead us to be not just one of the better states in the Midwest. I want us to lead us to be the top state in the country, not Florida, not Texas, but Ohio, where people flock to, move into, repatriate our kids here who have moved out of here to seek economic opportunity elsewhere. And I do think bringing down both the income tax burden and the property tax burden is basic table stakes for driving that degree of ambitious economic growth. And I'll tell you this, Lindsay, is that's not just going to lift up people at one end of the economic spectrum. It's going to lift up all Ohioans, which I view as my responsibility. And that's why I'm so focused on making sure that we're able to relieve, starting with that property tax burden that's fallen on too many Ohioans' shoulders.
The work requirements for Medicaid, that's one of your key policy proposals. And in the Mahoning Valley, we have almost 165,000 people on Medicaid. More than 62,000 of them are children. So how would you implement changes without harming the most vulnerable?
Well, of course, they would not apply to children, no doubt about that. We've said 18 to 54, able-bodied, who don't have children themselves, because child care is an important issue too. If you don't have children, you're healthy, you're able-bodied, then to start with something like 20 hours per week of at least seeking work. And the reason for this is not just a budgetary saving measure. It's about deeper issues than that. First of all, we do have a worker shortage in this state. Anybody who's a small business owner, anybody who's running a hospital, anybody who's running a healthcare clinic will tell you the same thing. Finding workers in this state is more difficult than it should be. And I want to help fix that by making sure that we're not disincentivizing people seeking work. But even more importantly than that, Lindsay, I think it's important even for the people who are on their path to also living the American dream to make sure that we're allowing them to stand on their own 2 feet, to give them a hand up when necessary, to acknowledge that's compassion. But it's not compassion to make that dependence permanent. That's not compassion, that is cruelty. And so I want everyone in the state to have the same path to the American dream that I and so many others in this state have lived, but to be able to do it in a truly compassionate way by providing the hand up when necessary without making it a permanent handout. And that's part of the culture of work we want to recreate in our state.
You were originally part of the DOGE effort to make massive cuts to the federal government. It's underway now, but there are some Republican lawmakers this week pushing back, saying, okay, let's look at this again, including federal workers too. They're looking at, okay, are you looking at the job before you know what's getting cut? They're saying that's not happening in some cases. They've also gotten positive performance reviews under the past administration, and they're questioning why they're getting fired. So real talk here, if you're elected, would your efforts in Ohio differ from the Musk-led effort, and how would you go about things? Would you do it that way?
Well, look, I'm going to do it in the way that brings the American dream to Ohio. That's where I'm focused. And I'll give you an example of where my focus is going to be, is on cutting red tape and over-regulation. And it's been my lifelong passion as an adult. You can look at the books I've written. That's where my focus has been. And you think about very tangibly, what does that mean in Ohio? Not just some abstract concept. I'll give you an example. It takes 18 to 36 months generally to get a permit for new natural gas pipeline construction in this state. That should be 6 months or less. That's not controversial. It shouldn't take 6 years to get permitting for a power plant for all the approvals that you need. And that's important for Ohioans because we're entering an era with AI data centers and other sources of electricity usage moving to our state, which is a great thing for job creation and economic growth. But we're not doing our jobs as leaders if we're not supporting electricity, reaching our electric grid, and power reaching everyday Ohioans. And yet it is the regulatory state that in so many cases is standing in the way. So I'll tell you, Lindsay, I've traveled the state. I've met a lot of Ohioans and especially business owners, including small business owners, who would tell me that we have too much red tape in a lot of areas. I haven't met one Ohioan yet who has said we have too little red tape and we need more. And so to me, this is basic common sense governance. That's what I'm bringing to Ohio. I'm less focused on what are we tearing down and more what are we building up. We're building up that American dream. We're building up economic excellence in this state. I want to build up education in this state in a way that offers a world-class education to every kid who grows up in this state. That's where I'm focused. That's where I'm looking to lead as governor. I'm incredibly grateful to have President Trump's endorsement and other national endorsements, Elon Musk and other senators at the national level. But I'm also incredibly grateful for the base of statewide endorsements we've received right here.
All right, you have a busy campaign schedule ahead. You've made some stops in Akron, also in Youngstown recently, and we're in Strongsville last night. So we will be following your campaign as you continue to go after this race in 2026. It'll be here before you know it. Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you for joining us right here at 5.
Thank you, Lindsay, and we'll be back in Youngstown.